Hello everyone, thanks so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Waxing with Wade. This is going to be episode number 38. Today I'm featuring the iconic 1970 release by the Grateful Dead, American Beauty. So let me tell you a little bit about the Grateful Dead. They came out of San Francisco in the late 60s, along with some other bands out of San Francisco at that same time, a big music movement. We also had Sly and the Family Stone, Big Brother and the Holding Company featuring Janis Joplin, Creedence Clearwater Revival, Jefferson Airplane, all from that area between 66 and 69, say. And most of them played at Woodstock. The Grateful Dead, 1970 marked a departure for them from their earlier sound that had elements of folk and bluegrass and country in it, but was more psychedelic rock. And in 1970, they released two albums. First, Working Man's Dead, and then which had the big hit, the known song by them, Casey Jones, and among others. And then came American Beauty. Let me show you the cover real quick. Great font there. It's a little hard to read unless you step back from it. And if you didn't know, an American Beauty is a type of rose, and that's the rose that is pictured on the front. On the back, we got a collage of the band and some weird stuff, and all the credits, songs, etc. So I mentioned this was a departure. These two albums, and particularly this one, are much more country rock, predating the Eagles, predating Flying Burrito Brothers, other country rock bands of the 70s, some of the bands, the later 70s, some of the bands that were producing this kind of music I've already featured, like The Band and Creedence by this time, and also other country rock artists from that era. See if I can think of any more. The Byrds and Graham Parsons. But this is definitely a very accessible album with great songwriting. If you thought the Grateful Dead, if you don't know that much about them, and maybe you don't consider yourself a Deadhead, or just think of that as druggy music or jam band music, the huge following, the caravan of druggies that followed them around back then, and still, I guess, some of the remaining members. Of course, Jerry Garcia, untimely death in 1995. He was only 52 or 53 years old. They stopped using the name The Grateful Dead, but they had been together almost 30 years, all of their core members. The lineup, primarily up front, was Jerry Garcia singing most of the songs, but Bob Weir wrote and sang a lot of songs as well, so they were kind of co-front men. They both wrote with Robert Hunter, who was a poet and lyricist out of San Francisco, and so did the other band members. And they collaborated on songs. But Robert Hunter was a co-writer and wrote the lyrics on just about every Grateful Dead song all through their career. And he has the distinction of being the only person in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame who was not a performer, who never performed anything, only wrote lyrics. I thought that was very interesting. But if you thought the Grateful Dead was just a drug band and jam band, if you haven't heard this album, this is like Eagles-esque almost, for thinking of the later 70s. I mean, it's more bluegrass than that, actually. Not really like the Eagles. It's more folk bluegrass and great tunes. And if I had to list my 10 favorite Grateful Dead songs, probably 5, maybe 6 of them would be on this album. There's only 10 songs on this album. I'm going to spotlight as much as I can. Let me mention the first thing that jumps out is the first 4 songs, which are 4 of my favorite Grateful Dead songs, are all written and sung by a different member. All 4 different. And if you'll recall back, another band I featured with 4 different vocalists on one album and writers was the Beatles' Abbey Road. And I actually featured 2 bands so far that and their album that had 5 writers and singers on the album. That was the Eagles, One of These Nights, and Blue Oyster Cult, Agents of Fortune. And so I think it's amazing that they put out these two masterpiece classics in 1970, both in the same year. On another note, that reminds me of my other passion, classic films, when Mel Brooks put out Young Frankenstein and Blazing Saddles about 9 months apart in 1974. Two other masterpieces. I'll probably think of some more things I want to mention. Listen out for 3- and 4-part harmonies on almost every song. Hall of Fame bluegrass musician David Grisman, mandolin player and other instruments, plays mandolin on 2 songs that I'll spotlight. And enjoy the folk country rock of this and the great songs. The first one is by Phil Lesh, the bass player, and it's called Box of Rain. It's one of my very favorite Dead songs. A little bit too far in there. Oh, my needle. There, right out of the chute, a lot of background vocals, beautiful harmonies. Jerry and Bob, maybe others, and Phil Lesh on lead vocals. And I want to skip to the end because that's when it really breaks down into this really catchy chorus, and let it go on to the end. So check this out. Ease the pain and love, we see you through. Just a box of rain, wind and water. Believe it if you need it. If you don't, just pass it on. Sun and shower, wind and rain, in and out the window like a moth before a flame. Wow, I love that song so much, and I actually thought Bob Weir sang it till I was looking at the credits on this album. Their voices are not as different as Jerry's is from theirs. Okay, now, Friend of the Devil. You probably heard this song, but let me just give you a little bit of the opening, a little bit of the middle, mention something about it, a shout out to somebody. Country Picket. Kicked in there on that second verse. The first verse, I think the drum wasn't going, or barely, and had a little, not quite as full of sound. The second verse came in, it kicked in kind of. I'm sure most of you have heard that song, but I hope you enjoyed it. If not, however, let me play a little of the middle and the great bridge in this song and do a little shout out. Listen for the name Anne Marie.
I can hold you for daylight, just might get some sleep tonight. Got your reasons why I cry away each lonely night. The first one's named Sweet Anne Marie, she's my heart's delight. Second one is Prison Baby, sheriff's on my trail. And if he catches up with me, I'll spend my life in jail.
Great mandolin by David Grisman going there, the bass going crazy. And let me just mention, when I hear this song, I think of someone I've known since they were born that are a little bit older than my daughters, Anne Marie Haraway, formerly Godwin, daughter of Alex and Willa Godwin, good friends of ours, and our kids used to play together when they were little. And I always think of her when I hear this song, though I know she wasn't named after this song. Okay. Next up, we've got another classic, this one by Bob Weir. Oh, by the way, that was Jerry Garcia. If you don't know his voice, you do now. This is Bob Weir, and this is the great song Sugar Magnolia with a great beat.
Just might get some sleep tonight. Sugar magnolia, blossoms blooming, that's all empty and I don't care. So my baby down by the river, knew she'd have to come up soon for there. Sweet blossom, come on, under the willow, we can have high times if you look like. We can discover the wonders of nature, growing in the rushes down by the riverside.
Love the bass in that song, the beat of it, everything about it. Okay, next, fourth straight different singer-songwriter, Ron Pigpen McKernan, who played some percussion and harmonica for them and sang occasionally. And this is another of my favorites called Operator. Each one of these songs, by the way, co-written with Robert Hunter, who I mentioned earlier. Each of these different writers and Robert Hunter wrote these songs. Operator, listen to the catchy guitar in this, and then we're going to hear some harmonica. Song hard to get out of your head, this song, like all these.
Operator, can you help me? Help me if you please. Give me the right area code and the number that I need. My right or left up on the midnight fire, singing like a summer breeze. I think.
All right, now I just want you to hear the ending with the great harmonica solo.
Talking to the night, I don't know where she's going, I don't care where she's been. Long as she's been doing it right.
That makes me think of my sweet daughter Maddie. She adores harmonica, big Bob Dylan fan. Anyway, it made me think of her. Jerry Garcia actually sings and wrote or co-wrote the next 5 songs. The last one on side 1, which I'm not going to play just because I don't have enough time. All of these songs are great. But This is one of their classics. You may have heard. It gets played a lot. Ripple, and it's fantastic. And I used to sing this to my daughters, sing them to sleep when they were little. I memorized all the lyrics back then, but I only know some of them now. Again, just some country kicking.
Would you hold it near as it were your own? It's a hand-me-down. The thoughts are broken. Perhaps they're better left unsung. I don't know. Don't really care. Let there be songs to fill the air.
For the mandolin. That speaker over there. Don't forget the full stereo band like me.
When there is no careful toss, no wind to blow, reach out your hand. If your cup be empty.
Note to self, listen to this album with headphones or earbuds. Okay, to give you just a little taste of the most rockin' song on this album, and it's not that rockin', it's very catchy little jaunt called Till the Morning Comes. Taste of another song called Addicts of My Life that is probably the most unusual song on this album, though it's not that unusual, and it's also the most psychedelic, though it's barely psychedelic, just like that was barely rock. Rock-in, shall I say. Listen to the harmonies on this. Sounds like a choir, and I think it's just four of them doing four-part harmony. It's fabulous. It's fabulous. Druggy in here. This part.
In the attics of my life, full of cloudy dreams unreal, full of taste no tongue can know, and lies no eye can see. When there was no ear to hear, you sang to me.
Wow, I found that really moving. Great vocals. We're going to finish it out with just a minute or so of their classic rocker, Truckin'. And on that last song, isn't it funny that it's the Grateful Dead, and that's as weird as this album is going to be, just that song. Pretty much otherwise just country, bluegrass, folk, rock, and including Truckin'. It's a little bit more of a rock. You probably all heard this and probably knew it was the Grateful Dead. That was the end of Addicts of My Life, leading into Truckin'.
Trucking, got my chips cashed in, keep trucking, like the do-dog man together. All the less in life, just keep trucking on.
Bob Weir.
Arrows in the intersection, my keys out on Main Street. Chicago, New York, Detroit, and it's all on the same street. The typical city involving a typical daydream. Hang it up and see what tomorrow brings. Dallas off machine. Houston, too much to do on me. New York, got the ways and needs and just won't let you be.
And you'll have to finish that song on your own. So sorry. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope it was eye-opening for some of you. For many of you, you've been like, oh, I know this album. I hope I got a good mix there. And please come back next week, because I'll be back for another Waxing with Wade.